Hi, this is Zach with Warren Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Squale 101 Atmos reference 2002. This is a recreation of their classic 70s diver. That it was a kind of a staple 1,000 meter diver with some very unique features that made it quite famous, very well liked. And the brand itself has quite an interesting history. They started in the 50s making actually dive cases for other brands, and they really became a kind of a staple for what a great dive watch case could be. And then they started to make their own watches, and such as the original 101 Atmos, which just became an icon of the time. And recently, in the last few years, they've started to recreate these watches, make some new watches, and they reissued this watch. It's a Swiss-made dive watch made in Grenchen, Switzerland. It costs $1,230 US new. And for that, like I said, you're getting a Swiss-made watch, sapphire crystal, 1,000 meter diver, a bakelite bezel, which we'll talk about later, and just overall really great quality. Taking a look at the case of the Squale 101 Atmos reference 2002, you'll see it is a pretty large case. It has 44 millimeters in diameter, about 51 lug to lug. It's a lugless design, but from edge to edge, and 14 millimeters tall, making it a fairly thick, quite large watch. The design of the case is really, speaks of the 70s. It has a kind of barrel shape, full polish all the way around. It's actually a very nicely kind of sculpted design. There's this little kind of arch shape that comes in to the side. Everything flows very fluidly. We might, these days when we see some of these dive watches, they're very kind of sharp, geometric, and robust. And this has a much more elegant design, which I do think speaks to kind of a different generation of dive watch. And frankly, because of that, makes the watch a little more versatile as a, potentially something you could wear in a more dress circumstance. It's really quite an elegant case. Now looking at the bezel, you have this very large, beautiful bezel with black and orange. And that's actually a bakelite bezel, which is a type of plastic you don't see used very often really outside of watches. It's still used for bezels here and there. It's a classic plastic from, you see it a lot in like radios from like the 40s and 50s, and I really appreciate that kind of detail. So they made essentially this bezel the same way they used to make it back in the 70s. Now what makes this bezel so unique, and kind of people from the dive community really fans of it, is that in order to turn it, you have to push it down, and then it's actually a bi-directional bezel. So right now, it's pretty stiff and pretty locked. You actually can force it to click over. But if you push down, it turns really quite smoothly, and then it'll just lock into place. That's really great. It works really well. It's a nice mechanism that you could see why they would bring back in this watch. At about 4.5, you have this crown here. I really like crowns that come off of that asymmetrical angle. It's very comfortable. It's easy to grab, easy to turn. Obviously, it's a screw-down crown since this is a 1,000 meter dive watch. Flipping it over, this might be a little bit tricky to take a look at, but you have the case back here, screw-down case back, very simple etching there with some basic details about the watch. Taking a look now at the dial of the watch, this model has a matte black dial with a non-numerical design. Instead, you have these multifaceted steel applied markers. I really like them. They speak to the kind of 70s aesthetic of the watch, and the little glimmer of light, the kind of polished effect plays well off the case. Going around then on the outer edge of the dial, you have white lines for the individual minutes or seconds. At 3 o'clock, you have a date window. The date is presented with a black text on a white disc. It stands out. It's very legible. Perhaps a little bit of kind of a little in the way of the overall aesthetic, but this is a dive watch, so legibility is key. As far as lume goes, there is tiny little lume rectangles on the very outer edge of each of these faceted steel markers. Now looking at the index on the bezel, I really love the aesthetic of this bezel, definitely from a different time period. You have dots for the individual minutes, and then for every 5 minutes you have these large white lines and a triangle at 12. It's only these white lines and the large triangle that have lume in them. Now looking in at the hands of the watch, these kind of simple short sword-shaped hands, the hour in white, and then the minute in this really, really, really bright orange. It's truly fluorescent. It really jumps out. I really like it, and obviously since this watch has orange present in the bezel, it just looks all the more appropriate. There is lume obviously in all of the hands. The hands glow very bright. Then looking at those little rectangles, they glow but not super bright. Obviously they're fairly small. And then the bezel is a little bit dim. I'd have to say it's not the strongest lume I've ever seen. Taking a look at the Squale on the wrist, it is quite a large watch, perhaps a little too large for my wrist, which is 7 inches, but the lugless design does make it sit a little bit better. And one thing I like, the height, though it is 14 millimeters, the curvature of the watch allows it to sit relatively flat, so it's not actually an uncomfortable watch to wear. It is quite sizable. The look of it, though, is very cool. The polished steel makes it a little bit dressier, but then overall it's clear it's a diver and sporty. I think it's a probably pretty versatile watch, and then the addition of the color of the orange makes it more fun. It's just a very cool watch. Now looking at the strap it comes with, so it comes with 2 of these rubber straps with a kind of diamond texture. Now you'll see this is obviously not sized for me. These are the kind of straps you actually have to cut to size, and this is a borrowed watch, so we didn't want to do that. But you can see it's a very thick rubber. It is quite comfortable, though perhaps not necessarily the most breathable. You could definitely put, let's say, steel mesh on this watch if you wanted to up the kind of dress look of it. The strap is a deployment clasp strap, so that's nice. And I'll just show you also, it did come with a black version, so you could kind of see what that looks like as well. Orange might be a little bit too bold, but it's definitely a lot of fun, so it's good to have both of these options. Just taking a very quick look at the packaging of the Squale 101 Atmos Reference 2002. It comes in this very kind of cool all blue box with silver logos on it. It's actually kind of a fun nautical look. I really liked how it presented the watch, and since this watch was orange, the colors really popped when you first opened the box, which is fun. Overall, the quality, it's just a kind of a normal box though. So to kind of wrap up, the Squale 101 Atmos Reference 2002 is, this kind of faithful recreation of their classic 70s diver. It's really, really well built. It's got really nice kind of aesthetic features that you don't see really on current dive watches anymore. It's on the large side at 44 millimeters. But, if you can pull off a large watch, if you really like that, then this is a, definitely a very cool looking one. The watch runs $1,229, making it a bit pricey, but for that you are getting a 1,000 meter dive watch, a genuine Swiss made dive watch. It has a 3.5 millimeter thick sapphire crystal on it. It has this interesting bakelite press down bi-directional locking bezel mechanism, which is really quite nice. And it's powered by the workhorse ETA 2824-2 movement. So overall quality kind of speaks for itself. It's a very good watch. We're excited to see what else this brand will come out with in the next few years, coming out with not just recreations but also new designs. They're definitely an interesting brand to keep an eye on. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the review. Check us out on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and anywhere else you can find us.